The night rain fell like silver knives against the glass as Ethan Ward drove through the empty streets. The city hadn't changed much, though he had. Once, he'd walked these roads with laughter and trust in his heart. Now, all he carried was silence and a promise that had burned in him for years. He hadn't spoken to them in 7 years, the ones who had destroyed everything he loved. 7 years since he last saw Claire's Fazia, the woman who swore she loved him, and 7 years since his best friend, Ryan, betrayed him to protect her lies. Back then, Ethan had been naive, the kind of man who believed loyalty meant forever. He worked hard, stayed honest, and built a small design company from nothing. But when the contracts started flowing in and the money began to matter, so did ambition. And ambition was a cruel friend. He still remembered the night it all fell apart. The rain was heavy then too, washing the streets clean while his world rotted inside. His company had been accused of fraud. His name splashed across every paper, and the woman he thought would stand beside him simply disappeared. Claire had taken her silence and left him with nothing but blame. Ryan testified against him, feeding the media every word they wanted. Ethan spent 2 years clearing his name, but by the time truth surfaced, no one cared. The damage was done. But silence, Ethan learned, had its own price, and tonight, he intended to make them pay it. He parked in front of the old restaurant downtown, the one they used to call their place. He hadn't stepped inside since that night. The sign still flickered weakly, the ghost of old memories. Inside, the warmth and chatter wrapped around him like a cruel joke. He booked a private table, ordered whiskey neat, and waited. He didn't have to wait long. Ryan walked in first, older, broader, wearing a suit that screamed money. Behind him came Claire, her beauty sharpened by guilt and diamonds. She hesitated when she saw Ethan, her lips parting slightly, eyes widening like someone seeing a ghost. On a broken bar she whispered, "Hello, Claire," he said quietly, his voice smooth, calm, almost kind. Ryan forced a smile. "Didn't expect to hear from you again, man. 7 years, huh?" "Yeah," Ethan replied, taking a slow sip. 7 years of silence. He gestured for them to sit. Neither spoke for a moment. The air between them felt heavy, like the past itself was sitting at the table. "I wasn't sure you'd come," Ethan said. Claire's voice trembled. "Why now?" "Because," he said softly, "I finally finished rebuilding everything you took from me." Ryan leaned back, trying to sound casual. "We didn't take anything, Ethan. You made choices." Ethan cut him off with a look. "You made choices. You signed the deal behind my back. You sold my designs to the investors, and when it all went bad, you threw me to the wolves." "Don't rewrite history." Ryan's smile faltered. "It was buzziness. It was betrayal," Ethan said, leaning forward. His voice was low, measured, but his eyes burned. "You used my trust, my friendship, to build your empire." Claire looked down. "You don't understand, Ethan. They threatened me." "I couldn't." He laughed quietly, shaking his head. "You could have spoken. You could have told the truth, but silence was easier. And now you're both going to learn what silence costs." Ryan frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" Ethan took another slow sip, setting the glass down gently. "You remember the company you just acquired last week, Ward Technologies?" Ryan blinked. "Yeah, what about it?" Ethan smiled, that cold kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. "You bought it from me." Ryan's expression froze. "What?" "I started it under a different name," Ethan said calmly. "Built it quietly, no press, no spotlight. The same designs you once stole from me built that empire. And when you came sniffing around for a merger, I let you have Ida for a price." Claire's face went pale. "On a broken bar." "What did you do?" He looked at her. "I built a company on your lies. Every contract, every client recorded, tracked, and owned by me. The deal you signed yesterday transferred all your assets, all your patents, and every one of your company as a broken bar to me." Ryan shot up, furious. "You're lying." Ethan reached into his coat pocket, pulled out a thin envelope, and tossed it across the table. Not lying, just patient. Ryan tore it open, eyes scanning the documents. His breath caught, his hands shook. This can't be legal." "It's perfectly legal," Ethan said. "You should have read the terms. You were too busy celebrating your own brilliance." Claire's voice broke. "You did this to ruin us." "No," Ethan said quietly, "I did this to end you." For a long time, no one spoke. The music from the main hall drifted softly into the silence, an old jazz tune they used to love. Claire looked like she wanted to cry. Ryan just sat there, staring at the papers, his empire crumbling in his hands. Ethan stood, adjusting his coat. "You taught me something valuable," he said. "That silence can destroy more than words ever could. I spent years quiet, rebuilding, and now you'll live in the silence you created." Ryan slammed his fist against the table. "You'll regret this, Ethan." Ethan leaned in, voice like ice. "No, Ryan, I already did my regretting. Now it's your turn." He turned to leave. Claire grabbed his hand, desperation in her eyes. "Ethan, please. You loved me once." He looked at her for a long time. There was no anger left, only the echo of what used to be. "I did," he said softly, "and that's what cost me everything. Love, silence, trust, they all come with a price. I've just collected the debt." He walked away, leaving her trembling behind him. Outside, the rain had stopped. The city lights reflected off the wet pavement like 1,000 broken memories. Ethan lit a cigarette, the flame briefly illuminating the scar across his jaw, a reminder of how close he'd come to losing everything. He got into his car, watching through the windshield as Ryan stumbled out into the rain, shouting something he couldn't hear. Claire followed, clutching her coat, tears mixing with the downpour. For a moment, Ethan almost felt something, a pity, maybe. But then he remembered the years they'd left him in silence, and then feeling faded. As he drove away, his phone buzzed. A message from his lawyer. "Transfer complete. They're officially out." He smiled faintly, exhaling smoke. The road stretched ahead, endless and quiet. He didn't go home that night. He drove to the old pier where he and Claire used to sit watching the sunrise. The sea was calm, the wind sharp, the world finally quiet. He stood there, watching the horizon lighten, thinking about what silence had taken and what it had given back. For years, he'd thought revenge would bring him peace. It didn't, but it brought him something better: closure. The ghosts were still there, whispering softly in the corners of his mind, but their voices no longer hurt. He took out a small silver locket from his pocket, the one Claire had given him on his last birthday before everything fell apart. Inside was a faded photo of them, smiling, happy, foolish. He dropped it into the sea. As it sank beneath the surface, he whispered, "Goodbye." The sun rose slowly, painting gold across the waves. Ethan turned away and walked back to his car. For the first time in years, he felt the weight lift from his chest. The world wasn't clean, but it was his again. The price of silence had been steep: years of pain, loneliness, and loss. But he'd paid it, and now, finally, he owned the quiet. When he looked in the mirror before driving off, he didn't see the broken man who once begged for answers. He saw someone rebuilt, harder, colder, and free. The phone buzzed again, another message from an unknown number. Just one line: "You got what you wanted. Don't come for me next." Ethan smirked. "Too late," he murmured. He started the engine, the sound echoing into the dawn. Somewhere far behind him, the city kept breathing, unaware that its newest king had just claimed his throne, not with power, not with blood, but with silence. And for Ethan Ward, that silence was the sweetest sound in the world.